So we're live. Welcome to Clone Mullet. This is Lo-Fi Wines.
No one has joined yet.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to start. This will be easy. So welcome to Clone Mullet. I'm Mike Roth. I'm co-owner, winemaker at Lo-Fi Wines in Los Alamos, California. Coming to you here from our home vineyard, Clone Mullet. Los Alamos is in Santa Barbara, California. Printed out some maps here to show everybody where exactly Santa Barbara is, so we can see here. I got a kind of little windy here today. So Santa Barbara, California, highlighted there, the dark one, is say I guess South Central California or Northern Southern California. Right there's Los Alamos. We're about 15 miles from the ocean. What else about it? So annual mean temperature here this time of the year is about 68 degrees. We have a diurnal shift. That shift from hot to cold of about 20 degrees. Average daytime temperature is about 72. 68, I think, this time of the year. This year's actually been a good year for us. We've got quite a bit of rain. For us, the average rain is about 14 inches.
We're at 15.
Almost 15 inches this year. So we scored a little bit better than we did up north, but it was a good year. We had a couple really good frosts, which is nice, which helps. Not during the growing season, but obviously chilling is. So right now we're standing in the Cabernet Franc. The vineyard itself is 7 years old. We planted it ourselves when we bought the property. It was all recycled. So a friend of mine has a vineyard he was pulling out. We went through and gathered up all the wire and the drip line and the stakes, and we planted it. All the fruit, all the Cab Franc and Gamay is own rooted. We gathered all the budwood for the Cabernet Franc from a couple different vineyards around the area and up in Paso Robles, and calloused all the wood in the garage in picking bins. And what callousing is you cut sticks, cut the bottom, flip them upside down, keep them at 90 degrees, and you get a cell differentiation where it actually starts to grow roots from the bottom of it, and you stick them in the ground. So we did that on the Cabernet Franc and the Gamay, and got pretty good take from that, so about 98%. And then we went back and put other plants in the ground the following year that didn't take. The soil here at Lo-Fi is what they call a chemichelle loam, so it's full of gravel. Relatively, it's a sandy loam with a lot of gravel in it. Pretty well draining. We have a little section in the back here that has a little bit of a little bit more clay in the bottom, so it tends to retain a little bit more water there. We start pruning here relatively late, just because we don't have any frost protection. So we just breaking bud here, getting some growth here. So just what's going on in the vineyard right now, we planted last week, and we just ran a Clemens through, so it's an undervine cultivator. Weed blade will run through, and to chop down the weeds in the vine row, and then we'll mow in the center of center of rows. This year we had a flock of sheep in the vineyard for about a month and a half. A friend of ours, Roark Wine Company, has a small herd of sheep, and we sectioned off the vineyard and moved them along so we can incorporate and clean out any of the soil that there's debris underneath the plants. It is a vineyard here again. Like I said, we only get about 14 inches of rain a year, and that 14 inches of rain happens between December and April. We had a relatively late season this year as far as the amount of rain. We had a lot more rain in the tail end of the year of the rainy season versus early in the middle, so we had a little bit of drought portion. But that late season rain will help a lot, I think. We won't have to irrigate for a while, which will be nice. And then so we'll come through. So you can see here we prune. It's called a double gaillot. It's 2 canes. It's meter by meter and a half by meter and a half spacing. We'll train 2 canes out on each side, 2 spurs. After we'll come through a little something. Try not to overlap. Use a single tie in the middle. Try to fill the wire up. It's kind of a modified VSP. The reason it's called Clo mullet is because the stakes in the vineyard are relatively small. Like I said, they were recycled. So we cut the stakes in the front, and they tend to be shorter. We cut all the rust off of them. And so the stakes in the front of the vineyard are short, and the ones in the back are long, and it's short. The vineyard's kind of shaped like a mullet. There's a shorter rows in the front, longer rows in the back. So it kind of stuck. So the double gaillot will go through shoot thin. These are spur positions. So you want these relatively to be hand width apart. We'll train that out and then clean up the head and leave spurs here that we'll renew next year to put down new canes when we cut these canes off. For the next year, we spread this out, touch this in, try not to hedge it and minimize water use so that this way we don't get too vigorous of a growth, but it's a relatively short canopy. They're trained relatively low. That allows us to get a little bit more heat off the ground to increase the growing season. Santa Barbara County has a relatively long growing season and mild temperatures, so it's pretty easy to grow those things here. We grow strawberries pretty much all year round, and lettuces, which a lot of places in the world can't do. One of those reasons is as you go towards the ocean here is we have, instead of this typical north-south mountain ranges, we have east-west mountain ranges. So our distance to the Pacific Ocean, we have these constant cool winds that come in that keep our climate relatively mild, considering how south we are. And that just helps us keep cool temperatures, or maintain cold temperatures, because the Pacific Ocean never really gets warm. So, the average temperature there is in the 60s, and that helps maintain the cool temperatures here. It's kind of like a box canyon, Santa Barbara County, so the closer you are to the ocean, it's cooler. So Santa Maria Valley and Santa Rita Hills, those areas, the proximity, they tend to be cool, and the further inland you get, the warmer it gets. So last year we grafted over a portion of our vineyard to some trousseau, just for something to shake it up. That's a good. So we went through this year, and so it's cab frog roots, and we grafted over, come through with loppers and cut it, cut the top of the vine. We gathered sticks from the trousseau that we grafted last year, and cut them into 5-bud sticks. We go through, you take a knife. Here's an example we have a branch. You take a knife, it's a grafting knife, you cut it on an angle, you create, it's not a sharp grafting knife, so you cut it on an angle like so, you make a notch, you make a corresponding cut in the line, and then you match up. This would be a 2-bud spur, not a long stick. You match up you make a cut on it, you match it up, slide it on so it doesn't move. As long as the cambiums of the vine, which is, if you're cutting a vine open, you'll see the green rim around the bark. That's the actual portion of it that matters when it connects. So if you cut them on the angle, you get the green cambium from this one matching up with the cambium on that side. you wrap it with tape, and then you cover it in a tree seal, and they'll bond together, they'll fuse together, and the scion wood, which will be the trousseau, will grow into the Cabernet Franc, and you'll have the top portion being trousseau. So we'll go through once a week. As the plant starts to take up water, you make a cut on the bottom of the vine, and what this does is it bleeds out any excess water so it doesn't float the graft union off. So we'll go through once a week, make sure that the seal is still on there. That's why you look at some of them, they have a little bit of paint on it. I bought some, it's more of a latex paint. The tar is traditionally what is used. There are some other things, clay portions that they use that tend to be because people aren't happy about tar, but that's the way that it is. So we grafted this over a friend of ours, Deacon Pasalacqua. He was nice enough to get us some cuttings from a vineyard up in Sonoma. That's, I think he said, the oldest trousseau vineyard in California. I can't remember the name of it, or maybe or something. So last year we grafted here. You can see what happened here. This is the grafting tape from last year. It stretches and cut the grafting tape off. So grafting tape can come off this year. We'll go through and we'll pull it all out and clean it up. And so this trousseau spurs sticks that we put on it, two bud spurs that we left on and grafted onto the Cabernet Franc. We'll come through. We'll leave some shoots down here low this year. You know, they're crisscrossed this year, and the reason that is as the way they grew last year. But we'll straighten them out next year by laying these out as canes as opposed to doing it. But you have to worry about breaking the graft union, so you have to be a little bit more forgiving. So some of them crisscross this year, but that's just for the first year. We should get about half a crop on it. Trousseau tends to be pretty fruitful, so we'll drop most of the fruit, leave a little bit just for just to see how it turns out, and we'll blend it in with something or make a little bit of trousseau. We have a little bit over, we have about 1,000 vines of Gamay in the front, and in the back here we had a little over 4,000 vines of Cabernet Franc, so now there'll be about 3,000 or so vines of Cabernet Franc, and it'll be about 3,500 of Cabernet Franc and about 500 vines of trousseau. And with the way it yields and our spacing, so we'll make a decent amount of wine, which is kind of fun. But here you can see really what the Clemens does for the undervine cultivation. It, you know, we mow. This year is the first year we're going without. We would alternate rows in tilling or working the soil, but this year we're going to try to do a little bit more no-till. Problem here really is gophers. Like here is a fresh gopher mound. Fresh gopher mound, you have to come through and you have to find the hole for the gopher, and then here's the gopher hole. We have to go through the gopher hole, and I actually ran the Clemens yesterday. So you have to find the gopher hole. They'll eat the whole way around the vine and can end up killing a vine. So you have to be a little bit more diligent about that. And if you don't cultivate, it's hard to find the gopher mounds. And then the gophers end up eating your vines, and then you don't have any more vines, which makes us sad. But we'll see how it works out this year. We planted a decent cover crop of large legume mix that we put in, and clover and some daikon, and we'll mow those down. We let them grow really far. We grow up high and then we mow them. Normally we'd incorporate that green manure into it, but hopefully those nitrogen fixing plants will aid in the development next year, because we don't really fertilize. But I think there's enough organic matter. Before we moved here, this was a horse pasture with 9 draft horses, so there should be a lot of stuff in the ground for them. But we're going to try to do some, that's part of the idea, bringing the sheep in. The sheep tend to help fertilize. So this year we're going to try to move them in earlier and rotate it through, so you have a more concentrated in area, so they tend to leave a little bit more in the ground. And now we'll walk over and we'll go check out some other stuff here. We're going to check out the gamay portion of the vineyard, and we also here, it's not a complete monoculture. We used to have chickens, but coyotes ate them, or fox ate them. We grow apples here as well at Clone Mullet, so we have 85 heirloom apple varieties. And here, as we walk over to the gamay, we can check out the apple trees. Apple trees are just blooming. Apple trees are just blooming. We have, I think there's a total of we have I think 20 different varieties of apples. These were planted when we first moved in here, so these are 7-year-old trees. Hopefully this year we'll have a good, have a good amount of apples from these trees that we'll be able to make a little bit of cider. And we planted a couple pear trees this year. I'm excited to try. I haven't had a lot of perry, but Art and Science, a good friend of mine, Dan Renke, makes some fantastic perry. So I'm excited to see how pears work into making cider, because I haven't had very much of it. We planted another 6 trees here in the back this year. So 7 years from now, hopefully we'll have a decent amount of apples from them as well. Walk up to the front here and see the gamay. We live pretty close to the highway, so there might be some road noise here. Oh, we'll take a look at the tractor here, so see what the Clemens looks like. The weed blade is pretty useful where other people are using Roundup or other glyphosate to keep the weeds down. It's hooked to the hydraulics of the tractor. I won't turn the tractor on. This is my buddy Ryan's, and he lets me borrow it. It's made in Germany. So it hooks to the hydraulics of the tractor. As you're driving along, keep the RPMs up high. It has a sensor here that when you hit it, the blade shifts back. So as you're driving through, you set the angle on it. You want it to be just below the surface, so it cuts through the roots of the grasses in the vine row, and then it moves back and shifts back and forth. So if your vines are really close, you can buy a shorter blade. Makes it easier, and that's about what a Clemens is. Rototiller, but we're not using it anymore. We pick into lug boxes here, so they're about 40 pounds in a box. We'll stack them up on the back of the truck and drive them to the winery. The winery is about 8 miles away in Buellton. Yeah. So this, you'll see, is a little bit further along. Gamay is about 3 weeks ahead of the. I'll be on that side so you're not in the sun. It's about 3 weeks ahead of the Cabernet Franc. Difference here is shorter stakes, obviously, but we're going through and setting in some longer stakes this year, line stakes, so we can build the canopy out and put some cross arms in to help increase wind flow and decrease mildew pressure. The Gamay's Massal selection from a couple different vineyards that were nice enough. They all have licensing agreements that they're not supposed to talk about. They're not supposed to share, but I kind of snuck in there and got some. So it's done on a bilateral cordon. So it's trained up on the wire. We'll cut it into 2 bud spurs. We go through probably in a week or so. In 2 weeks we'll do maybe a first application of some micronized sulfur. We spray on average maybe 3 or 4 times a year total for mildew. It's the pressure here isn't as high. You know, it's not a question of water, it's a temperature range. So even though we have low relative humidity, the temperature range here makes it really makes you susceptible to mildew. Other than that, we really don't have a lot of pest problems here in Santa Barbara County and Santa Rita Hills. They've had problems with Pierce's disease, but really that leaf roll virus in some places. Some of the other problems, mealybug is an issue here in Santa Barbara County, not as much in other places, but I think in California in general it is. But yeah, that's about the total on the Gamay. This year turned out fantastic. The Santa Barbara County Gamay this year is actually all from Clo Mullet. So in coming years we'll have a Clo Mullet specific Gamay because we grafted over another 3 acres at Oak Savannah Vineyard that my friend Felipe runs, and we'll have more Gamay from there because we enjoy Gamay. We'll put in new wires and new cross arms here in the next week or so after we shoot thin, and we'll hopefully have a little bit taller and healthier canopy this year. We'll maybe start irrigating. It's not, the ground's pretty wet still. We had rain maybe a week ago, so you can see as we kick it in here, texture of the soil changes and it still clumps up. So even though it's relatively sandy, so we're gonna wait a while to put the first bit of water on. We're nowhere to bloom yet, but you can see the future clusters on here. And it looks pretty healthy and exciting day. That's about it here. Hopefully you enjoyed my little talk about Clo Mullet and the wines. Cabernet Franc from Clo Mullet, 100% destemmed, aged about 10 months, neutral barrels, clone 214, so it tends to be a little bit more kind of a bitter orange character, a little bit of a richer wine than our Coquelicot vineyard. The Gamay again is 100% destemmed as well, and a little bit more fruity, bright forward, shorter élevage and demi-muit, 600-liter barrels. And I enjoyed being live and talking about my vineyard, and hopefully enjoy the wines, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.